Welcome to Sports CTO Talks. In today's episode, we would be discussing the future of soccer recruitment, from AI to merit to digital scouting. I am Ami, your guide on this journey, who are shaping the technology and sports industry. We will dive deep into discussions and innovations driving the industry, from cloud to AI, from cybersecurity to sustainability. If it is sports tech, we are talking about it. Today, on this podcast, we are joined by Nihal Pradeep, the CEO and co founder of Dartel, with strong experience across youth sports, AI, athlete development, and digital scouting. Nihal has been actively sharing the insights on how AI can support coaches, parents, players, and academies through smarter feedback, personalized training, and better talent identification. At Dartel, they are on a mission to empower soccer academies across the world through cutting edge data and analytics. Their vision is to amplify opportunities, elevate performance, and provide a pathway for young, aspiring athletes. Nihal, we welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Ami. I really appreciate the opportunity. And I look forward to a very, very good chat, and hopefully, the viewers can get some useful insights out of it, and maybe
Absolutely.
have some thoughts as well, right?
Absolutely. So, Nihal, my first question is how have algorithms changed the way we rank athletes and discover talent in sports in today's time?
Okay, so if you look at recruitment traditionally, right, it's always been whom do you know, whom you have access to? Am I in the right geography? Am I in the right college? So a consequence of this is a lot of really, really good talent is now going unseen, right? But now what algorithms can do is one, it can make the whole recruitment process more scalable. Like instead of a scout reviewing 20, 30 reports, you can simultaneously process thousands of them at one point of time and then filter out exactly the right cultural fit, the right positional fit, the right fit for whatever your parameters are, right? And then at the same time, the algorithms can make it a lot of make it about merit as well, right? Because ultimately, players who are talented deserve to be seen. So I think that's what it does. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, what role does merit still play in player ranking when algorithms are becoming more prominent day by day?
I mean, it's always about merit because if you are letting AI today be the final decision maker, then that's not going to cut it. Because what AI will do is like I said, make it more scalable, make it more accessible now to people. Because earlier maybe just the professional teams had access to this, but now with algorithms, like I said, it has become even more global, even more scalable. And as a consequence, the algorithm is now able to use all this data to tell you exactly why a player is, worth your time to look at. And so merit is definitely winning. It's not about AI replacing merit. I would say AI is augmenting the merit now. It's rather become even more meritocratic today, right? That's what I think.
So, how do data driven player ranking systems measure the intangible qualities such as leadership, the team dynamics, or the mental toughness?
That's often the challenging bit today
Yes.
because I would say that's an area. I mean, of course, you can measure this indirectly, like maybe through how well you are performing on the pitch in terms of say your decision-making capability, how you're communicating with the team, your leadership, in terms of how you're orchestrating, in terms of football, say, for example, how you're orchestrating your team, the press. That speaks a lot about your leadership, but those are more indirect qualities. But even more so, I would say leadership is there's a lot of human element to things like leadership because ultimately you have to look at um, so the leadership, what AI cannot see is emotions. This is something that humans can read. Like I can look at this podcast today and say, okay, this is the kind of person that I think Nihal is. This is the kind of person that Amy is, and that note today is has to come from a human. But what AI can do, given you have thousands of such notes logs, AI can recognize patterns, right? So AI can probably correlate and say, oh, okay, what I'm saying is maybe a person of this level, maybe this industry and this, or coming from this background and this. AI can see patterns which humans might miss. So I think that's the real strength of AI, rather than you can't really take away the human context. So like I said before, AI can never be the final decision maker. The human element, especially for things like leadership, like you said, those will be absolutely fundamental.
So, how is data used to evaluate a player's skill or potential across different sports or different leagues? And is it evolving day by day? Is it benefiting the player or the league? And how is it benefiting?
So the point right earlier, if you look at a couple of years ago, a lot of data were primarily used by just the more the teams with more resources, like in terms of personnel, in terms of money, in terms of infrastructure. But thanks to a lot of AI algorithms, it has become more democratized. Like smaller teams have now been able to use data to really stand out, to maybe even optimize themselves, right? Because they for them to compete with the bigger teams, they can't. It becomes difficult if they're focusing on everything. But data and algorithms give them very specific objectives, like very strategic thinking process. They can say, okay, let's focus on these five things which I can do, and that makes it even more easier to get ahead in certain aspects, maybe not everything. And also it's the context, right? Because you asked the question of how does data really play out when you play at different levels. See, if at a smaller league, say in India, you're playing in Kerala for a local team and you score 115 goals, are you really better than someone who is playing at the senior team but has only scored 10, right? Because the context is important. So I think the AI is only as good as the context, and these kind of contexts are now being put into place. So when a team is looking at a player's data, they are looking at it from all of these contexts. So the game has evolved, and I think the evolution has been towards more scalable, more accessible data points. So yeah, so that this is how I've seen a lot of the teams, a lot of the leagues start to use data, and even the smaller teams get access to this over a period of time. Yeah.
And how has this data, the algorithms, helped in improving the scouting process today, while versus, the traditional scouting?
Right. Because see, earlier, like I said, the traditional approach is a scout would sit in front of a computer, or would go watch a match, and he's able to observe, say, 20 to 30 players. And when he does this, he is often leaving a lot of this to his judgment. He might miss out on a lot of his historical performance. A player could have a bad day when the scout is looking at him. So there's a lot of these factors which could come in. But when you look at AI or algorithms, like it's processing thousands of similar information simultaneously. So now, if I'm the same scout, right, instead of me going to a random event, maybe I need a specific position in a specific, I'm looking for a very specific type of player. So the AI can look at all these thousands of players' data and it can tell you exactly, hey, go see this tournament because these players are going to come there. So it everything becomes more strategic now. So AI is essentially becoming um, like a new age tool for the scout, right? So that's how I think it is generally uh, come about recruitment. Because earlier you like the scout was thinking, hey, where do I go, or what does this player do, right? And now the scout is thinking, okay, how can I make this player better in terms of the context that I have? So that's kind of how the systems have evolved and the scouting process have also become better with.
So when we talk about AI, like there are ethical concerns surrounding, AI in ranking the players. There might be biases in the data. So how can all these things be mitigated, and how can it help in clean sports basically?
Right. See, except a few countries, a few places, sports is still very unorganized, very scattered, in a lot of places, right? Let's put it this way, right? It's if you're starting to think about, definitely these concerns are valid, and the quality of the data is only as, I mean, the quality of the AI is only as good as the data that it gets fed into, right? Because if you look at if the AI is only looking at a certain or giving certain importance to certain elite leagues, then the AI will naturally be inclined to have biases towards those elements of scoring. So you can't really eliminate it unless the data starts coming in. So that's why you need diverse data sets. You need to look at different data points from across different regions, from across different types of game styles, profiles, etc. Because you see, the problem is we're talking about ethics and biases, which is really important to talk about, but the timing of it, we could probably defer it to a later situation, because this is similar to me thinking about how do I swim across the Atlantic Ocean when I'm only just ever done my first swimming session in a swimming pool, which is like 3 feet deep, right? But the first and foremost thing that people will need to do is they need to think about is let's get these systems digital. Let's get the data coming in, because there are constraints there, because most people still don't have data. Look at India, for example, right? Where's the data? Right? Except for elite sports. Even in elite sports, I doubt there's data beyond the statistics that's out there in matches, right? Outside of that, what data are you seeing in training and in academies when players are growing up? Where's the data? Do you have that? If you do, maybe it's coming from hardware, but then that's just one part of it. Are you getting a longitudinal view of a player? The question that you asked, right? It's not just statistical, but there's leadership qualities. There's a lot of these measurements which are really, really important. So I think that is one. So increasingly, you will see a lot of these larger teams also now starting to think about transferable skills, like you said, decision making, the speed of decision making, your awareness on the pitch. Like these are things which do not change so much with leagues, environments, etc. So when you start looking at these information and start feeding in AI with this, there's minimal chance of bias. So that's why you start, and then you slowly grow into it. Once you have the data in place, the pipelines there, then you can think about optimization. Then you can think about the ethical factors, the a lot of the other optimizational parameters that can go in. So that's why I honestly think.
Yeah. So, how do scouts and team management teams interpret the data generated from algorithm-based player rankings? And how do they incorporate this information into their decisions? And how is it helping the scouts, the team, the leagues, as a whole cycle into the sports ecosystem? And how it is growing and evolving?
Right. So fundamentally, as I said before, the key thing here is like the key mistake a lot of people do, right, is to often let AI be the final decision maker, which you shouldn't do. AI should be more about validating your assumptions. It should be about showing you those patterns. Like, for example, the human element in context. Like you are looking at a bunch of you're overseeing training of a lot of athletes, right? So imagine you're in training and you have data on the players. It is wrong to ask the AI, hey, what session do I do next week? Right? Maybe the AI has data, it can look at all of these, but it's still going to miss out on a lot of the other context. So the right way to approach this will be to sort of ask the AI, hey, I think I need to do the passing session next week because I feel these are the reasons. What does the data tell you? So now the AI has context, the AI has historical data. They're going to combine these, and then it's going to give you its thoughts. It's going to say, well, you're right. Or maybe it's going to say, no, maybe you're missing out on these points. The the root cause is rather something else, which is where you should put your focus on, right? So today, I think that's where really good, like people who have cracked the code, that's what they are doing today. Instead of relying solely on AI for decision making, they are using AI to either validate their hypothesis or identify patterns which can help them with strategic decision making, which was earlier difficult. Earlier, there could have been human biases. There
Hmm.
could have been other factors which could come into this. But now this is what it's become. And like I said earlier, instead of thinking like where's the player, or what do I look out for in a player, now it's become more about, okay, I have these data on players, how do I incrementally make these improvements for the athletes.
So there is a report by Sports Tech Media that shows that 74% of sports teams are already using data analytics to support the player recruitment decisions. According to that, like how do you see the trend growing in the next 2 to 3 years, especially with AI into place, the algorithms, AI changing the algorithms, and it's becoming more and more advanced day by day.
um I think we should answer this a little bit more, like take a step back, have a bird's eye view, right? If 90% of any jobs today, right, they fear for their job security because AI has come in.
Yes.
Um, and it's true for sports as well, right? Uh, the whole perspective or the whole narrative around, hey, AI is gonna make you lose your job is not really the right approach to look at it, right? It's rather, with AI, you have to be able to utilize it to improve your own efficiency. Like I'm saying, with this, for a scout, AI is about, how do I see things I've never seen before? How do I get access to players which I've never ever had before? How can I democratize? How can I make it more about merit? For a coach, it's about, hey, how do I spend less time on admin today? How do I focus more on actual coaching, and instead of me spending time on logging all this information in computers? That's where I think AI will play a lot of role. It can reduce a lot of the inertia around how do you, or it can reduce friction, rather, not inertia. It can reduce the friction for a lot of people. And the more friction you reduce, it becomes easier for people to adopt this. If you don't adopt it today, like we have this joke going on in technology. I'm sure you're aware as well, right? Because if you don't, what you've used in 2025 is obsolete in 2026, right? It's never been, the changes have never been this quick. So scouts, every industry have to adopt, and sports is no different. So I'm sure 75% will get to 80, 90% very, very soon. The growth is going to be very steep.
So, what impact does the increasing resilience into the algorithm ranking system have on careers? Like you said that it's going to grow 80%, 90% slowly and gradually this year, next year. So, it, how will it shape the careers of traditional scouts and recruiters, and what will happen?
I, it's they'll be more, I would say they would become more specialists rather, because now they have data. It's not, it's no longer about them seeing, just using their intuition to say certain things. It might be about, oh, I know a certain type of player, or I have the insight to identify a certain type of pattern from this, which is so it's definitely going to become more strategic and more um, specific, in my opinion, because AI is going to do all the hard work in terms of identifying patterns, logging all the data. So the scouts are going to have more time now
Hmm.
to work with quality information. So instead of them taking a chance going to a random tournament, like I said before, they can be they can make an informed decision to skip this tournament but go for the next one. So I think that's how the jobs will evolve over a period of time with AI. Things are going to get very much more specific and much more um, strategic.
So, how can AI in sports recruitment help identify the hidden gems, or the under presented players in small leagues or regions, as you were saying, that I can visit only one game at a time, suppose. So, how will AI help into that growing, evolving?
Right. So uh, I'll talk about this from like both lenses, like for the
Hmm.
club or for the scout as well as for the athlete, right?
Correct.
So now for the club, usually their usual route is they hire a scout or they go to these tournaments, try to look for players. Uh, but more, what's going to happen is more or less a lot of the same clubs will end up coming for most of these tournaments, right? And then it becomes a price war, like, okay, who gives more salary to this player? And then uh,
Correct.
it becomes really difficult because what you're doing now is you're going to highly known prominent leagues where I know somebody who knows somebody else, or these are the higher probabilities of people coming here. So for the club, the algorithms, what they're going to open up is, like I said, instead of having visibility to just these 30 players, which they might have usually had access to, they can look at players who have been outside of their spectrum before. Because the AI is going to tell you now, hey, great, you're looking at things in Miami, but you have this really good kid in Arizona who is someone who you've not looked at before. And for the club, suddenly, you're not having a price war anymore. Maybe you can grab that child for a bargain, right?
Yes.
And that's kind of like we talk about this in the Premier League, like how is Brighton grabbing all these young talents before anyone else finds them? Um, Maybe you'll unearth the next Messi or the next Roger Federer. We never know, right? So that's what, from the club's perspective. For the player's perspective, earlier you had to have network connections. You had to go to this academy who knew this scout from this college so that you can get to that place, and then that's the only way you get seen, right? This happens a lot in Kerala cricket, for example, right? You'll see that. like Sanju Samson here, for example, he's been playing for a long time, but
Yes.
often it's difficult. I mean, this might be me touching on a very controversial topic, but I've always believed like we've all known Sanju for a really, really long time, and I think he's deserved his chance, and he's taken it really well now. But I think it's been a long time coming. He should have been seen before, and there are so many players like that. But Kerala obviously is not still as big in the cricketing ecosystem as other places are, right? So for players, it means if I'm from Kerala, I might have to go into Karnataka or someplace else where it's highly likely that I get seen. But with I can increase my chances now. Even if I am not part of that Ivy League college, maybe this scout can still find me. That's what I think will be the unlock for.
Okay.
So ultimately, it's scale and more merit-based recruitment, which is going to happen eventually.
There's another study, Nihal, like there's a report, sorry, by Deloitte that AI-driven recruitment is, expected to improve recruitment accuracy by 30% by end of 2026. So, what do you feel and how do you feel about the accuracy of these predictions and what impact will it have, on the overall system?
Well, that's quite interesting. I think it's similar to what we might have spoken about. I've frankly not seen the report, but um, what I think is they are leaning towards the same direction, right? Because now that we have access to so much data, or there is the possibility of having an increased data inflow, recruitment is going to be more data driven. It's going to remove a lot of the biases that we've had from humans before. So it is natural that the recruitment accuracy is going to be higher. And also the fitment, because like if I'm a scout and I'm looking for a very specific type of player, maybe I'm looking for a short player who can run fast, who has a huge burst of acceleration. He has a huge engine. He is tall. He plays left back. Okay, so where do I find that person? And then maybe I don't even need to go to him. Maybe I have all this data coming in. So now your recruitment, it's just like IT recruitment, right? Maybe
Correct.
we're recruiting. Maybe we're an office full of Tamilians, and then you're trying to recruit someone who is from the north or even from Kerala. Suddenly, there's a lack of cultural fit, right? Because that person might get isolated because everyone else is going to speak Tamil and the other person might not. And this is relevant in sports too. So your recruitment accuracy is dependent on all of these factors, which was difficult for you earlier. You could not tick more boxes, but I believe today you can filter out based on all these parameters, and then you might just see 5, 10 players which fit your exact requirement, and then you can go hunt for them. So I definitely think Deloitte is right. I'm sure they have more data than I do. So,
True.
and I think it's the same direction that we're all aligning our thinking towards.
Like, how are you seeing soccer as a sport is shaping up when AI is introduced to that sport specifically? What are the changes that have happened? How it has grown? How is it growing? And there might be definitely few limitations right now. So what are the limitations and how can we overcome that into soccer?
I think it's a mix of frustrations from a long time and now the solution being available. So, from the context of US, for example, this is what
Hmm.
I've been seeing. Right? You'll see a lot of parents, a lot of coaches talk about the frustration in youth sports
Hmm.
because until today or until a while ago, the only information you had to go with were, hey, how many goals did a player score in a match? How many passes did that player complete in a match? So the winners and the players who were successful at this got separated or got now the playing field became very uneven. And so what happens? One, in an academy, there's 400 players, but maybe 100 get to play for a match. Then the remaining 300 do not have exposure, right? And so that frustrates parents, but parents are spending money. The kids are suddenly depressed. They don't want to go for training anymore because they're not having fun. But now you see this movement. Everyone's talking about, hey, the game needs to be more fun now. Like you're focusing on the wrong things. You need to focus on the player development aspects, which has always been the case. Like it was always how, I mean, I know coach educators talk about this, but in practice, it was difficult to do earlier. But now the movement is coming out because with AI, it's become possible because AI has made not just data interpretation possible, but like with us, for example, with Dartle, what we've been able to do is simplify the data capture process as well. So there's optimization on the capture front, there's optimization on the interpretation front, there's intelligence from a lot of this data. So in combination, this can result in a lot of positive trends. So in soccer specifically, I'm seeing a lot of positive movement towards focusing on transferable skills like we spoke about earlier rather than just the statistical skills which were there before, and I think AI has largely made this possible.
Absolutely. Like team management is a very essential part in soccer also.
Right.
So how has AI incorporated itself into team management, team statistics, the team data, and how can a team move forward? And how is that shaping up?
So again, just going back to the US example, like if you go to Reddit and just search for US soccer, you'll see a lot of parents
Yes.
frustrated and screaming at. I mean, you can't blame the parents, but you can't also blame the coaches because for them, sometimes it's about getting the message across through to the parents. See, coaches have good insight. Coaches know what is the right player to pick for a team. How do you manage egos? It doesn't get translated in communication to the parents. So today the data is there. So now instead of, if a parent is coming and screaming at you and say, hey, why was my child not picked for the game today, the coach can sit down with the parent and say, hey, listen, we wanted to, but these players have these scores which are better, or these statistics which are better, and here's some additional information because AI can also help with recommendations, right? So AI can recommend or help coaches prepare individual development plans for kids, and that they can take it to parents and say, hey, listen, focus, get to the player to work on these aspects, and I'm sure they will come out really, really good in the next couple of months. So even parents today have seen, like with the parents that we work with, have stopped asking the question of, hey, why was my child not picked? And it's changed to, hey, okay, how do I improve my play? Like there's this player evaluation sheet that they get or a report that they get. Now parents are asking every 3 months, like, where's my kid's evaluation today? Like this has never been the case before. So I think for coaches as well, it's made communication much more easier. It has become team selection has become a little bit more meritocratic, and there's data to back it all up. And AI has made it all simple. So
Okay. One last question, Nihal. Like in the future, do you see AI and algorithms completely replacing the human scouts, or is there a role for hybrid approach? Because everyone honestly is worried that that AI is going to take jobs, AI is going to do this, that. So,
I honestly think if the scouts don't start using AI today, there will come a time when they get replaced. Like, for example, when computers first came and people who did not use computers, they were kicked out. But people who used computers, they still had jobs, they still had things to do, right? And they became important. They learned how to master the device. It's going to be a similar story with AI. And I think, like I said, AI is there to increase scale. It's there to increase or see patterns which you couldn't, but it still can't read emotions. It still can't it replace human intuition. So these aspects are very, very important. And so I 100% believe that AI can never or AI shouldn't replace humans. The scouts should still be there to make that final judgment. You asked the question of bias earlier. Like humans can look at this data and say, oh, this is actually a bias.
Hmm.
And they can be the final feedback and help AI improve. So ultimately, the take here would be, or for me at least, would be if I don't use AI and data today, I'm going to sink. But if I do, I'm going to be one of the top scouts in at least in the short term and in the medium term going forward. So I think that should be the approach.
Perfect. We'll move on to the next segment of the podcast. That's the rapid fire round. I'll ask you a few questions, but you have to be very quick in answering.
All right, I'll try my
Yeah, it is one word or max one sentence. Nihal.
sure.
If AI had to replace a dream soccer team, would it pick a robot as the goalkeeper or a human with quick reflexes?
Human with quick reflexes for sure.
What's more important when recruiting a player, data analysis or a scout's intuition?
I'd say a mix of both.
Correct. Can AI predict a player's performance in high pressure situations as well as it can in regular games? Yes or no?
I think not yet, but it can get there.
Who is your favorite player of all time?
Thierry Henry.
Okay. If you had to take him for dinner, where would it be?
When or where?
Where?
Interesting. My home. I would love that.
Okay. That's a nice one. What is one thing AI cannot replace when it comes to evaluating a player?
The emotional side, the transferable information.
Would you trust an AI system to make the final call on a major transfer, or would you prefer human input?
100% not AI. You need the human. Human should be the final input, not AI shouldn't be the gatekeeper.
Which do you think is more accurate for scouting, AI or human intuition?
Again, a mix of both.
Okay. If AI had to choose a team formation based purely on data, would it pick a more traditional formation like 4-4-2 or modern 4-3-3?
I think based on data 4-3-3 for sure, because it's more flexible and yeah.
Okay. If you could only choose one, physical stats, mental attributes, or historical performance for evaluating a player's potential, which would you choose?
If only one mental, but if I were to rank, I would say mental, historical, and then physical.
Perfect. We'll move on to the next segment that is answer in 30 seconds. There's just one question. Like, according to you, what is the role of AI in the future of soccer? Part of the recruitment, the merit, the digital scouting.
So like I said, AI will help with scale because today, what AI is going to be really good at is getting more information, ingesting and processing that information at the pace that humans can never think of, and identifying patterns to lay out the information in front of humans. And then humans can take the final call. So that's how I think it'll improve. So it'll improve the scale, the outreach, the accuracy, and make things more data driven. But humans will ultimately have the final call.
Perfect. Thank you, Nihal, for joining us today and removing time for today's podcast.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I look forward. I enjoyed the chat. So I look forward to hopefully being here next time as well. But thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Amy. You've been wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, everyone, let's stay connected for more understanding on sports and technology in the future. And if you're building something in sports, want to explore ideas, strategies, technology support, please feel free to connect with me or Nihal into the chat and we will get back to you. That was Nihal sharing his insights today. We will meet in the next episode next week. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, and keep exploring.